Starting your day off with a take on Vegas you won't get anywhere else.
Hi, I'm Holly Madison, and I listen to Brian Shapiro.
Hi, this is William Shatner, and I listen to Brian Shapiro.
Hey, this is Larry the Cable Guy, and I listen to Brian Shapiro. Why? Because I'm a good American. So is he. And if you don't listen to him, you need to pack up and leave this country.
This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
Welcome all again!
What's up, everybody? It is the Vegas Take on a Thursday. Glad you could join us. A lot to get to today. Well, we always have a lot to get to, right? A little bit under the weather. I wasn't feeling good yesterday, and I'm doing the show today with a fever. So hopefully that's probably why I'm in a studio by myself. That makes sense. But I'm still here. I'm a trooper. There are more difficult things to do when you're not feeling good than talking in front of a microphone. So thank God my job is not strenuous physically. Maybe mentally it is, but not physically. So glad you could join us. A lot to get to today, as I mentioned. Anthony Marshall, former running Rebel, will be joining us in hour number 2. I want to get his thoughts on this coaching search, the UNLV basketball I guess you could call it debacle. Yeah, I'm going to be pressing the cough button a lot today. Definitely coughing a lot today, that's for sure. I got the cough drops in there. So Anthony will be joining us in hour number 2. Also, Mike Babcock from TMZ Sports will be joining us as well. So we got a lot to get to. Obviously, I want to talk about the news of the day. Hey, it is March Madness, right? Got a lot of great basketball games today. And Nevada actually playing right now as we speak. I think they were down like 20 points, if I'm not mistaken, in the second half. And they're coming back. And they're right back in the game. So a lot of great games, obviously, to get to and to discuss and to talk about. Villanova also in action today. Michigan State, they had a scare. So we'll get to the hoop stuff. We'll get to all that stuff, I promise you, coming up in hour number 2. But I want to, again, we've talked a lot about the Donald Trump remarks and the Donald Trump statements, disgraceful statements, I think, to any logical person, in regards to John McCain, who is no longer with us, who, yes, I believe is a war hero. And Donald Trump can't get off of it, right? He talks about his grades. He attacks him for his voting record. He attacks him for his war service. We played audio yesterday back from 1999 where Donald Trump was attacking John McCain because he was captured at war. 1999. It's been going on since then. Well, John McCain, some of his family members don't speak out, and they rarely make public comments. Bridget McCain is someone who you rarely get to hear speak publicly. So she went on social media. This is what she said. This was on Twitter. She says, "Everyone doesn't have to agree with my dad or like him, but I do ask you to be decent and respectful. If you can't do those two things, be mindful. We only said goodbye to him almost 7 months ago. Even if you were invited to my dad's funeral, you would have only wanted to be there for the credit and not for the condolences." She goes on to say, "Unfortunately, you could not be counted on to be courteous as you are a child in the most important role the world knows." I got to tell you, I could not agree more with that statement. Even Scaramucci, the mooch, calling Donald Trump stupid, saying it's stupid when you're attacking dead people. It's not good. This is an unnatural social act, and it will turn people off. Again, I don't always agree with the mooch, but I completely agree with him here. So why is it that there are certain Republicans out there that will not speak out? Why is it that there are certain Republicans out there, like a Lindsey Graham, who in my opinion is a complete disgrace, as he has been behind his, I wouldn't say his buddy, but I think it's falsely behind Donald Trump, standing by him forever? Well, I'll tell you why. It's pretty simple. Because Lindsey Graham, I'll tell you what he cares about. He cares about being reelected, as do many of these other politicians do. Unfortunately, that's all they care about. Lindsey Graham's approval has benefited from his defense and alignment to Donald Trump. Can anybody disagree with that? This is a man who calls himself one of John McCain's good friends, and he can't get in front of a microphone and just say it for what it is, that Donald Trump's comments are a disgrace. He won't do that, and he won't criticize Donald Trump because the man wants to get reelected. And for any of you Republicans out there, whether you are people who call in, registered Republicans, conservatives, or if you are a politician with an R next to your name, if you don't call out Donald Trump, or you haven't called out Donald Trump for the comments he has made in regards to John McCain, not just before he was elected and not just the comments he made a week or two ago and a few days ago, if you haven't called out those comments or you are not willing to do that, then you are a phony, biased Republican. Yes, that is what you are. And I am so tired of it. I am so tired of the bias. Don't get me wrong. It happens on both sides. We have Danny Tarkanian on this show once a month, and I like Danny. I think he's a good guy. His wife does says completely ridiculous things on social media. Let me give you an example. And next time Danny comes in, I'm going to talk to him about this. We had 50 people that died in a terrorist attack by a white supremacist. 50 people. So what does Amy Tarkanian do? She goes on social media. She doesn't talk about gun control. She doesn't talk about how this maniac white supremacist got his hands on these weapons. She doesn't talk about mental illness. You know what she talks about? She puts up on Twitter a remark about how this guy was an environmentalist. That is disgraceful. Do you think that the families of the victims who died in that terrorist attack a few days ago, do you think they care if this guy was an environmentalist? Do you think they care? But if you are biased and way on one side of the aisle, you do and say stupid things. And I think Amy Tarkanian does that on a regular basis. And I'll tell Danny that to his face. I don't care. I don't think Danny does that. I think his wife does that, Amy. And it is disgraceful. Do you see what I'm getting at here? The bias. The politicians. All they care about is getting elected. And it's on and on and on, and it's why things can't get done in Washington. The bickering back and forth. And I'm not just blaming one side of the aisle. I'm blaming both sides. And, we got a lot of calls the last few days about this Donald Trump, John McCain. It's pretty cut and dry to me. The president continues to show, is a disgrace, continues to show no respect for this man, wanted to be thanked for John McCain's funeral. And I tell you, his daughter got it right. He wasn't there to pay his respects and condolences to John McCain. If he was at that funeral, he would have been there for himself to be thanked. Because that's who Donald Trump is. And if there's anybody out there who thinks otherwise, or if you agree, I'll open up the phone lines and I'd love to hear from you. The number to call if you want to be a part of the program, 257-5396. Again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the show, 702-257-5396. What do you think about politicians like that? What do you think about when 50 people lose their lives because of a nut job white supremacist in a terrorist attack, clear terrorist attack? And you have Republicans, some locally, like Amy Tarkanian, that want to politicize it. You have some people out there like Amy Tarkanian who think that it matters if this guy was a white, if this guy wasn't an environmentalist. Clearly, he was a white supremacist. But you know what? After a terrorist attack, I don't think we should really look into one's political views. Because if you are a monster and you want to kill innocent people, what does it matter where your politics are at? That's what I don't understand. Where does it matter? It shouldn't matter. It absolutely shouldn't matter. But there are people out there that think it should. There are people out there that think the victims of that horrific incident that took place over the weekend, that it should be politicized. Well, I'll tell you one thing that country, and I'll tell you one thing that they're doing, and that's taking away those weapons that were used and taking them off the racks that were used in that terrorist attack. Why does that never happen here? Why are our politicians cowards? Why is it that when we have all these mass shootings, and yes, mass shootings are on the rise, if you haven't noticed, why is it that nothing gets done? Because many of these politicians are cowards, and many of these politicians are bought off by the NRA. But many people don't want to hear that. Many people don't want to talk about that. Many people don't want to talk about the serious issues that face this country. But Donald Trump and many of the Republicans want to talk about are the caravans and the illegals in this country that they claim are a national emergency. because Donald Trump wants his wall built, even though Mexico's not going to pay for it. And yes, he did campaign on a lie. Donald Trump wants to talk about what he talked about on the campaign. And I don't think it has anything to do with a national emergency. I actually think it has everything to do with the fact that he's a man that just wants to get what he wants. No, I really don't think he cares about this country like many of you believe. I think he cares about himself, and he cares about his family and all the people that are close to him. I don't think he cares about people like you and me. And yes, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think Donald Trump is a complete and total fraud. And I ain't afraid to say it. A complete and total fraud. And he proves it every single day with the idiotic things he does and says. Let me give you another example, and I'll open up the phone lines at 257-5396. Again, if you want to join the program, give us a buzz at 257-5396. Let me give you a perfect example of what I'm talking about the hypocrisy when it comes to politics in this country. Okay, I'll give you the perfect example of what I'm talking about. Do you remember when Barack Obama was talking about getting into talks with Kim Jong-un, and he made some remarks about it not maybe being a bad idea to have talks with evil dictators? Do you know how many Republicans out there thought it was a bad idea? Do you know how many Republicans out there that spoke out about this? That said, oh, why are you going to talk to an evil dictator? We're not going to get anything accomplished when you do that. I have the clips to play if you don't believe me. Fox News was all over Barack Obama when Obama was talking about the possibility of meeting with Kim Jong-un and other evil, murderous dictators. And Fox News was all over Barack Obama for doing that. All over him. All over him. But when Donald Trump wants to meet with these evil dictators, nothing but silence from the right. In fact, they think it's a great idea, and they're praising him. Is the hypocrisy with politics today, and with all due respect to any Republicans out there, you have to admit that, or I'm sorry, you're a clown. It happens on both sides. 257-5396 is the number to call. Again, 257-5396. Let's start out with Karen. Karen, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. How are you?
Oh, good, thanks.
What's on your mind, Karen?
Well, you know, I'm just wondering about this national crisis at the border, at the southern border. And I want to ask you, what is it when we see hundreds or thousands of people at the southern border trying to get through that's happened with those caravans?
Okay, so what's your question, though?
What do you think about that?
What do I think about hundreds of thousands of illegals crossing the border?
No,
Is that...
I didn't say hundreds. I said hundreds or thousands when there's been groups of caravans, and I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
I'm a little confused about that.
Well, here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say to that, Karen. In a perfect world, I'd like everyone to enter this country legally. But the facts don't add up because we are in right now the lowest amount of illegals in this country in a very, very long time. And they keep getting lower. As far as illegals, our big problem are people that are overstaying their visas. And they are illegal. That is the majority of illegals in this country are the ones that overstay their visas. That's just a fact. And as far as those caravans and those people that are crossing the border illegally, I would like to think, and I think the stats back me up on this, the majority of those people are not bad people. The majority of those people are good people that want a better life for themselves or their families, their children. Are there some bad people? Absolutely. I'm not going to deny that. There are a very small percentage, but there are some bad people that are crossing this border illegally. And I am all for border security. But in my opinion, this wall, this so-called wall that Donald Trump talked about when he campaigned, and he said Mexico was going to pay for it, by the way. Do you remember that? No, Mexico's not paying for it. That was a lie. He campaigned on a lie. I
think what he was referring to is that he was going to implement some kind of something that would be fair for all the remittances that are going to Mexico and Central America by the people who are here illegally.
Well,
I think that he was going to implement something. But I would just like to say the issue here is not whether these are good people or not. The issue is that there is quite a few of them at the border trying to get in. And I'm wondering about how many are slipping through that are undetected. I mean, no one ever talks about that.
Well,
What's your opinion of that?
Okay, well, that's a valid question, Karen. And by the way, it's good to hear from you. I appreciate the call. The problem with that is we don't know. I'm only going by what we do know. We don't know. What we do know is that the people that are crossing the border, these people that are in this country illegally, have a much lower chance of committing a crime than you or me or an American citizen. If this was an emergency, then it should have been an emergency 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. The lowest numbers of illegals we've had in over a decade, but yet Donald Trump wants to call it a national emergency. With all due respect, I just don't think it is. 257-5396. Let's go to Ken. Ken, thanks for calling in. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I really love the argument that you just gave about if it wasn't a national emergency 5, 10, 15 years ago. It's been an emergency for a while, and these gutless politicians refuse to do things about it. Everybody argues the other side, who's ever in power. The other side just stifles any sort of progress to get anything done. Schumer, Pelosi, Clinton, even Obama campaigned to fund a border wall. But all of a sudden now everybody's, well, it's Trump's wall. Well, it's not Trump's wall. It's America's wall. Let's build the dang thing, and let's start getting some proper security for this country instead of just letting every
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Now, you sit there and said, well, they got a less chance of committing a crime. Just crossing the border illegally, they committed a crime. So you're a hypocrite right there.
Okay, so you're just going to call me names, or are we going to have a discussion?
Well,
Do you want to be polite?
You called me one saying I'm a hypocrite for believing in Donald Trump and building this wall.
I didn't call you a hypocrite. In fact, I didn't use
everybody that does that a hypocrite.
No, I haven't. I haven't. First of all, I haven't used the term hypocrite ever in this show, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
Why don't you play your tape back and listen to
Okay,
yourself?
well, first of all, it's not a tape. We do a radio show. This isn't the 80s. We don't have cassette tapes. Number one. Would you like to have it? Would you like to have a pleasant discussion, or do you want to call me names? It's up to you, Ken.
Start out with a pleasant discussion.
Okay, I'll ask you the question again.
Numbers. Well, how many millions of people?
Would you like to have a debate, or okay? Would you like to have a debate, or would you like to call me more names? It's up to you, Ken.
I'd love to have a debate.
Okay, then how about you be quiet, please, and let me. Excuse me. What'd you just say?
Eat your lunch. Let's have a debate.
You'll eat my lunch. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to keep you on because. I just feel like doing it. I can hang up on you if I want to. You've said some ridiculous things. Yeah, but I'll keep you on. I'll keep you on. By the way, sorry, I don't bring my lunch to the radio station, by the way, and I didn't use the term hypocrite. Okay, so here's the thing. So, okay, well, you know what? You started making fun of me, and now I'm going to debate you, okay? First of all, these are the lowest. Are you going to be quiet now? These are the lowest numbers that we have had in the last decade, okay? So if it's not an emergency.
Lowest numbers of what?
Illegals that are crossing the border. Are you not listening to me?
Where do you come up with those numbers?
Do you know the most illegals that are in this country? Do you know it has nothing to do with the border? Do you know it has to do with people that overstay their visas?
That's the number that should be.
Excuse me. Answer the question. Do you know the most illegals in this country? Where do they come from? Do you know the answer to that, Ken? Or are you going to eat? Or are you going to eat my lunch?
From Mexico, but that's
probably from Mexico. Okay, well, guess what? Guess what? You're not even eating. Okay, fine. Ken, you're not even eating my appetizer. You're not even eating my appetizer. In fact, you didn't even make it to the drinks before dinner, Ken. The most illegals in this country come from. Guess what? I'll say it again. People that overstay their visas. You didn't eat my lunch, breakfast, or dinner. You didn't even eat my appetizer. You're not even worthy of having my water. What do you think about that, Ken? Oh, by the way, you're a hypocrite. 257-5396. 702-257-5396. Let's go to Eugene. Eugene, thanks for calling in. How are you?
I'm doing okay. The only thing I got to say to you is just like the Democrats, you all are on the wrong side of history.
Okay, well, guess what, Eugene? I got a news flash for you. I'm not a Democrat.
You know why history would judge you all?
I'm not a Democrat,
the Democratic Party was for slavery.
Excuse me. I'm happily to let you talk, Eugene.
Jim Crow, the Confederate Jim Crow Party.
Okay, Eugene.
They were for lynching. They were against civil rights.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
They've always
Eugene, I'm not a Democrat, okay? If you want to label me, that's fine.
You're a Democrat.
Really? So you know my really because so be, no, you check. No. You no.
I'll shut up and let you speak.
Okay, fine. Deal. Go ahead.
The wrong part of the United States is They tried to tell people to vote for Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush.
I didn't do that.
The country, middle America, didn't want that.
Okay, well, I didn't
why
want
there
that.
was so much pushback.
Okay, fine.
Okay?
Are you done now?
The
Can I respond?
Democrats have always been on the wrong
Are you just
side
are
of
you
history.
are you just going to call up
Okay,
and
go
go after
on ahead,
ones?
go on
First of all, Eugene, you're
Okay, go on
100%
ahead.
you're 100% wrong with what you started the conversation with. Okay, I'm not a Democrat. I voted for Mitt Romney. Okay, I'm not a Democrat. I can vote for a Republican just as much as I can vote for a Democrat. You have no idea what my voting record is. The problem with people like you is that you just assume and you like to label people. And you guess what? That is what's wrong with this country. Unfortunately, because someone goes after Donald Trump and criticizes Donald Trump, you call people like me a snowflake. You call people like me a liberal. You call people like me a Democrat. That is the state that we are in with politics. People like you just want to label people. I can't stand that. I can't stand people that label other political people just based on the things they say about Donald Trump. And you have absolutely no idea what my voting record is, so that is just completely and utterly ridiculous. I could go on and say you must be a right-wing radical nut job, but I won't say that. I'll just say you sound like a nut job. Seth, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. Seth, how are you?
I got 2 points.
Yes,
So,
sir.
Your stats that you're throwing around, first of all, those are not stats that are 100% provable. And I'll tell you why. Because how do you measure and count the illegals who come here across the border who don't get caught? How is it possible? You can never count those people.
I'm going to take the census.
There's no way. So obviously, the people who come here and overstay their visas, those are easy to track because we know who they are. But you cannot track the people who cross the border illegally.
So what's the number, Seth? Give me the number. What is it?
We don't know. But that's the point of
You
the
don't
law.
know, but you're just assuming that the
That's the
census
main
is wrong.
point.
You don't
That's
know
the
the
main
number,
point.
but you're just assuming that the census and the numbers that they come up with are wrong.
No, that's the point is we don't know the numbers. That's why we need
Oh,
the law.
the numbers that come up from the census of the United States of America come up with these numbers, and they actually have the numbers, and they say that you're wrong. So I'm going to take their opinion over yours, Seth.
The census? What census?
You can Google it right now. You could go
Okay,
online
but you
right
can
now
also
and find the
think
numbers.
Okay, but fine. But you can think logically. If you cross the border illegally and you don't get caught, how is it possible? Just think logically. How is it possible to count that person? Think logically.
You don't think they count illegals in this country? You think they just deport every single illegal that they find?
But how do we know if they're illegal or not if it's not a question on the U.S. Census?
What do you mean? What do you mean? There are numbers that come out, and they got those numbers because they actually
So there's
catch
not people-
illegals that are in this
people
country.
living off the grid illegally?
These are people that are professionals that do this for a living. That's what they do. So I'm going to trust their numbers over yours. Look,
You're jumping around the question.
I'm not jumping around. I'm not jumping around the question at all.
Somebody
Based on
count somebody.
I'm trying to
who
answer your
crossed
question.
the border illegally.
Based on their numbers, okay. Based on their numbers, they are the lowest they have been in over a decade. So it is. So it means the numbers continue to drop. It's not a national emergency,
It's
Seth.
higher. Actually, did you not listen to Homeland Security experts?
I listened to a lot of people. I'm having trouble listening to you.
Last year?
I listen to a lot of people, Seth, with all due respect, but I suffer having to listen to you because all you do is you call in and you want to defend Donald Trump. All you do is you call in and you want to demonize illegals in this country. You do it all the time, Seth. I struggle listening to you. 257-5396, the number to call, 257-5396. Donnie, let's go to Donnie. Donnie, thanks for calling in. How are you?
Hi. You know what? I work in a hospital here in Las Vegas, and let me tell you what I see with my own eyes.
Could I guess before you give me an answer? Is that okay?
You go right ahead and guess, but you're not going to get it.
Most of the people that go into the hospital don't have insurance. They're illegals. They're not able to pay their bills, and it falls on the taxpayer. Was that what you were going to tell me?
Not at all.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay.
Bad guess, Donnie. I'm sorry.
Because what I'm about to tell you, absolutely nobody is talking about.
Let's hear it.
Everybody's worried about Mexicans coming here with their children and wanting to clean our toilets.
Yeah.
And do our yard work, which is stuff that white people don't seem to want to do for themselves.
Well, can I even go a step further, Donnie? And by the way, I agree with you. I wouldn't say it's white people. I would just say Americans in general.
Americans in general. You're absolutely correct.
Right.
They don't want to clean their own toilets. But let me tell you what I see with my own eyes. I work in the medical records department of a local hospital here, and I see it almost every day. Chinese couples come come here with their pregnant wives, and they stay here for a couple of months. And let me tell you, as soon as that baby is born, the day that baby is born, they are in the medical records office wondering when that baby is getting their Social Security card.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about that. Mm-hmm. Everybody's worried about some Mexican woman with 3 kids who wants to clean their toilet, but they're not worried about the Chinese couples who are having a baby here, getting a Social Security card, and then going back home. And then 18 years later, 18 years from now, that baby is going to be able to bring their whole family over here. Nobody's worrying about that.
Well, I think
it's perfectly legal.
Yeah, you know what?
100% legal.
Yeah, Donnie, I think you bring up a really good point, and it's good to hear from you. I'm glad you called. I totally misrepresented what I thought you were going to say, because a lot of people on the right want to complain that all these illegals, that they don't have money to pay their bills, they don't pay taxes, this and that. Like I said, folks, in a perfect world, I wish we knew exactly who all these people were. In a perfect world, I wish nobody would come into this country illegally. But we are not in a perfect world. But if you want to call into the show and say this is a national emergency, fine, I'll listen to you. I'll hear what you have to say. But most likely, I'm going to disagree with you, as do many logical people in this country. Do we need help on the border? Do we need better security on the border? Sure. I don't have a problem with that. Mexico's not going to pay for this wall. You know who's going to pay for this wall? People like you and me. That's right. We're going to be paying for it, the taxpayers. And if we're going to pay for a wall, then I also want to find a way we can get these people that are in this country and overstaying their visas. We need to find a legitimate pathway to citizenship. And this is something we have to work to do. If you want to call, 257-5396. Julia, Gary, Willis, you're on hold. We'll get to you when we come back. Again, that number to call, 257-5396. We'll continue this conversation on the other side of the break on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.